ableism in Saturday cartoons. How can that be? What does that look like? Can we say everything we see on Facebook that has people with disabilities or disabled people in them is a wonderful story that we want to share and encourage other people with? Not necessarily. And so I don't know if you have seen a recent cartoon trailer that has been airing on Facebook, and it's kind of going around to different Facebook groups, getting lots of views. And so I was curious about it, and I wanted to watch it. How about you? So today we're going to be talking more about ableism, but specifically in children's cartoons, and how we want our kids seen, and how we need to be aware that ableism can creep in to many different areas of our lives. If you are new to our show, I'm Charmaine Tanner. I'm a retired teacher, a parent, an author, an advocate, and I'm here every Thursday at noon Mountain Time, bringing you a Facebook Live show. So let's get into our show today. What I'd like to do is show you just the 1-minute trailer that we are seeing on Facebook. So cross your fingers that the technology gods will be with us and that we'll be able to see this video. I'm going to try and enlarge it and
superheroes are usually never around. He's not going to speak a lot, but super smart, real funny. He has
I'm not sure why that stopped. Darn. So let me see here. We can get this back to play. It doesn't want to look like it wants to play with us today. But anyway, that gives you a clip. I'll also put the link to it in our post description when our show is done. So if you are just getting here with us live, I showed a very quick piece of a trailer for a new cartoon that a film producer and an animator is working on. And I wanted to talk about things that I see or that I saw in this trailer that I think are positive aspects that we want students, we want our own children to understand. But, you know, I also saw probably more things that were concerning to me. So if you're here with us live, say hi so I can greet you and show your comments up here on our screen. What I'll do, because let me see one more time if this trailer will play, because I wanted to give you the whole trailer to watch, but if that doesn't happen, I've got some slides that we can show. I'm not sure why that's not playing. Maybe I'll refresh my Facebook page. And we'll see. Sometimes doing a live show and showing a live video, it kind of taxes life. And now I'm not even seeing. There we go.
Superheroes are usually never around. He's not going to speak a lot, but super smart, real funny. He has an autistic son. He was telling me that his son could watch like a Disney movie and be able to name everybody that worked on an event like this. His memory was that good. These kids got superpowers. I have a deaf character that I'm gonna have him speaking. He's gonna be going silent. Even my character that's paralyzed, he's got the ability to go inside this big robot, and that's where he gets his legs from. The dad on the cartoon, who's the doctor, he's a doctor on these kids. He has depression. That's major for me. Growing up, I don't remember seeing like a cartoon that had a child with a special need. I wanted to make the cartoon as realistic as possible as far as, okay, these traits, this kid is just like you. You have superpowers as well.
So let me know in the comments, have you seen that trailer on Facebook recently? Like I said, I've seen it in different groups and people sharing it. So I'd love to know if you've seen it and if you have any initial comments about what you think of it. So Terry's here. Oh dear. She says, hi, Charmaine. It's summer and the struggles are starting. So Terry's in our membership group. So Terry, after our live broadcast, I'll come over to our membership group and we can chat. Okie dokie. So anyway, this new cartoon, it hasn't been produced yet. I looked on the film producer's website and they're still looking for funding. The person that is doing it now is an animator and he has the figures drawn and some animation, but not, the project isn't totally complete. But I wanted to share with you who he is. So let me see here if I can go to the next one. So his name is Joshua Leonard. He currently lives in Atlanta. And Terry says that this is the first that I've heard of it. Not sure how I feel about it yet. Yeah, and like I said, Terry, I think, to me, there's some positive aspects, but there's also some points that have me concerned. The good news is I've seen on his Facebook page that he's also open to suggestions from other people. So at the end of our show, I'll post the link where you can contact him. And if you want to give him some positive feedback about the cartoons and also some suggestions for improving it, I'll make sure that you get that link. So, like I said, some of the things that I think are positive about this superhero special needs cartoon is that he is bringing disabilities to the forefront. Typically in our cartoons that kids watch, there's not a lot of characters that have disabilities. So I think when we increase that is a positive thing. He's also bringing minorities into cartoons. And again, we have some cartoons that have had characters of, minorities, different races and such in the programming. I always think we need to have more of that. Plus, with this cartoon, he also has women as being superheroes. So I think that's a positive aspect. He does use some identity first language where he talks about his friend that has an autistic son. And more people with autism are asking that they be referred to as their identity first and not people first language. So I thought it was good that in some of the segments he did talk about autistic people and use identity first language. He has a deaf character in the cartoon that uses sign language. So kids, I think, are always kind of enthralled and interested in sign language. And that's another way to show that we have lots of diversity, and it makes our world an even better place. And that sign language is an accepted language in a way of people to communicate. He brings out the point in the trailer how we don't have very many disabled actors actually in movies and TV shows portraying disabled people. It's always sad when I see TV shows or movies and they've hired a neurotypical actor to place a disabled person in a film or in a TV show. So I think it's good that we are looking at changing that, because that is really something that would be wonderful to see our producers changing how TV shows and films show people in their real lives. I think cartoons are a great way to educate people, so I give them a thumbs up for that. We know so many kids from young ages to their parents watch cartoons, and this is a way that we can help children understand that there are disabled people in the world. They do have wonderful things that they can bring to our lives and our communities. And so I see that as a positive aspect. And I'm going to switch here and see if we have any more comments. So make sure you can say hi to us. And if you're watching in the replay, you can also type in any questions or comments that you have, and I'll come back and we'll go through them. So let's also look at some thumbs down, some aspects of the cartoon that I am a little more concerned with, and I would like to see some changes. For me, when I hear the word special needs, I feel like that, doesn't truly show the positive aspects of having a disability, and that we all have needs. And it's not because I have a disability that these make it as special needs. I think if you look at the needs that we all have, as far as to feel safe and secure, to be happy, to have relationships and positive relationships with friends and other people, all of those kinds of things everyone has. And so I would like to see not the language of special needs used in the cartoon. Like I said, sometimes he uses identity first language, sometimes he uses people first language, especially for autistic people. They are usually preferring that we use identity first language. The other thing that I noticed when he talks about this character, I think his name is Zeke, and he talks about, he has autism, but also a superpower. And here's the thing is, I don't want people to think that a disability is something that we're kind of ashamed of, or something that, produces this negative stigma. But we also have these wonderful superpowers. I would like to see it end. So this character is autistic and has these superpowers in the cartoon. So instead of differentiating and saying that they're separate, to me, it makes it seem like we're dissing the disability. And I would like us to see that as disability is natural, and it is something that we don't need to be ashamed of. So let me see. The other thing I noticed in the trailer is a bit of stereotypes, which is a signal that this is a symptom of ableism. He talks in the trailer about his friend that has the autistic son that knows all about Disney movies, everybody who worked on the Disney movie, and how he has this exceptional memory. And I think when we say things like that, it plays into those stereotypes again, which is not something that is that we want to encourage. And also, I look at other stereotypes. I mean, my son Dylan has Down syndrome, and I don't hear it as often, but I still hear people saying, well, oh, your son has Down syndrome. He must be so happy all the time. And I always see, people with Down syndrome smiling, and that's a stereotype that's not true. And it's not helpful for people to see disabled people in those lights. The other thing that was interesting, it's not specifically in the trailer, but when I was looking at his website and going on his Facebook, he talks about this 9-year-old boy who was born with polio. So that's inaccurate. Polio is not something that you're born with. It's a virus, and unless you live in, I think it's just 3 countries, Afghanistan, Nigeria, and I forget the other one, where polio still exists. A 9-year-old boy today would not probably have polio unless he lived in one of those countries. So it was interesting on Facebook, one of the commentators is a person that uses a wheelchair, and she was talking about we need to make sure that people understand that this is an inaccurate statement. So we want to make sure with whatever we're showing in cartoons is accurate. Now, the second thing that I noticed that I was concerned about, and Julie, who's in our Parent Advocate Trailblazer group, had also brought up this point, was in the trailer, he talks about how this character that uses a wheelchair goes inside this big robot to get his legs, and that's where he gets his power from. And that concerns me because I don't want kids who use wheelchairs to think, oh, I'm no good. I have to go inside this robot, I have to have legs in order to have power. I think that's the wrong message. So to me, that gets a thumbs down for this part of the cartoon. I think it would be so easy for the illustrator to show somebody in a power wheelchair and the superpowers and the James Bond things that they could do with their wheelchair versus giving kids the idea that I'm no good, I don't have legs at work, so I need to get legs in order to have power. So that's a comment that I think would be helpful for him to hear, the film producer and the animator, so that can be changed. And then they also talk in the trailer about how we're more alike than different. And this is another signal, another symptom of ableism. And to be honest, this is one that is harder for me to kind of fully embrace because I've had so many years of thinking about kids and what they have in common versus what their differences are. And so you may feel that way also. And I'm going to check comments here. So Terry, I don't know, is that something that you also see? I think that, I've come from that viewpoint where I want other people to see Dylan as this full person and that his Down syndrome is one of his characteristics, but it's not everything that defines him. So I've subscribed to that, I don't know, theory or belief that kids are more alike than different. However, now I'm evolving and learning from other younger parents. And what they are saying, which also makes sense to me, is when we use that more like than different philosophy or value, what we're really doing is we are, again, downplaying our kids' disabilities and not showing them that that is a part of who they are and that's a part to be proud of. And it's good to be different, and you can be proud because you're different. And one of the ways that you're different is with your disability. So to me, that's a mind shift that honestly that I am still working with. And so I'd love to know what your comments are. If you are watching the replay, type in what you think about, do you think about more of, how people are alike? Do you see that as a hindrance for disability pride? So Terry has a great comment. She says, because my boy has an invisible disability, I struggle more with people who see him as bad. And that's very true. And I think that there are so many judgments made on kids, judgments made on parents and grandparents and caregivers, that when they see a child and they, label that as bad behavior, they don't understand that that is part of their disability. And so I totally agree with you, Terry, that we want people to understand that if kids can do better, they will. And when they, are seen in a grocery store and having a hard time with, all the sensory input that they're getting and maybe have a meltdown, then instead of people making judgments, if people could understand that that's part of the disability and that's how that impacts that child. So thank you, Terry. That's very true. So a couple of other things that I noticed in the cartoon trailer that I gave a thumbs down to, that I'm hoping will, when the cartoon is actually produced, will change. And the last one is that they have a character in there, Mr. Tig, who is the teacher of all the children. Well, in the trailer that I've seen and the research that I've done on the cartoon, I've only seen children with disabilities in the cartoon. And so to me, this sends a message that there is this special class for all these kids, and they all have this one teacher. So that, to me, perpetuates that myth of segregation and that kids with disabilities only belong together in a segregated class. So I think, when I look at this cartoon, like I said, I see possibilities. I see some things that would be helpful, but I also have concerns. And I think some people are going to say, Charmaine, you're just like oversensitive, right? This is like a silly cartoon just for kids. It's like whatever. But I think these subtle messages that we send to kids and send to people in our culture do make a difference. And we need to make sure that it accurately reflects the diversity in our culture and in our communities, and it gives kids disability pride, which I think is something that I didn't focus on as much with my son, and I'm seeing that as something that I want to, help him understand more as he's a young adult now. So my hope is that as young parents learn and as young parents are, being involved in more activities and such, that this message of ableism is going to be called out, that the symptoms of ableism are going to be recognized, and that it is as serious as racism. And we know, I mean, there's lots of things just, current event wise of people making comments that were very racist. And we need to continue to stop that. And on the same hand, I think we need to be using our voices to call out when we see ableism. Ableism in our, in our news reporting, ableism in our cartoons, ableism when we're sitting around an IEP table. It exists. We need to learn more about it, and we need to call it out, and we need to not accept that kind of behavior. So Terry also says that the lack of inclusion would be the greatest problem for me. And I agree, Terry. That's like the thing I do daily, pretty much, going to IEP meetings with families and talking to families, is to help schools understand that kids can learn together in general education classrooms, that when teachers change up their instructional strategies, that it not only helps the kids on IEPs or 504 plans, but it helps everybody in their classroom achieve more. I was just at an IEP meeting yesterday, and it was for a little guy going into kindergarten, and trying to help the school understand that what they were proposing was a more restrictive placement. And I just kept hearing things like he needs small group instruction, he needs a certified special ed teacher, he needs specially, designed instruction that can only happen in the special ed room. And it's like, for years, for decades, we've been talking about how special education is a service. It's not a place. Kids can be in general ed and still get special ed supports and services. Special ed supports and services are portable. We have court cases that talk about that. They can be brought to the child. The child doesn't have to leave in order to get that support that they need. So I totally agree with you, Terry, that inclusion is one of those things that I think that's when we see the most ableism occur. And I think sometimes we don't look at it in terms of ableism. We look at it in terms of, segregation and inclusion, but that actually is part of ableism. The other part that comes in is, pity. That's a very common aspect as far as, people feeling sorry for our children and raising money for cures versus looking at the rich life that they can have with a culture and with a community that recognizes everyone's strengths and gifts and recognizes that we all have needs, and they can be met in a variety of ways right in the general ed classroom. So that's the huge message for me. I would love to hear more about what you think about this topic. As I said, when I finish our live broadcast, I'll go into our description of the post. I'll give you the link for the Facebook site for this cartoon, the website of the designer, and also the email where you can give the animator some feedback on his cartoon. It isn't published yet. They're not running it as a regular cartoon. They need more funding so he can hire more people to help actually get this off the ground. So this is a great time to get your feedback in and give him your comments, because this is the time where it's all being developed and we can have an impact on that. So I am excited because I hear good things happening. A lot of parents are happy that the end of the school year is here and that their kids are going to be involved in summer activities that they get choices for. I also know that for some kids, having that abrupt change from that regular routine of school and now looking at somewhere where there are more choices and maybe less structure can be really anxiety producing. So whatever situation you're in, if you're excited for summer to be here for your children, or if you're feeling a little bit worried, I would love for you to like our Facebook page. I can show it here on the agenda, maybe. And that way we can stay in touch and continue to have conversations. So I know Terry is a fan of our Facebook page. If you haven't liked our Visions and Voices Together Facebook page, please do that, and you can make sure that you stay in touch with us. We are on live every Thursday at noon. I am hoping next week that I have a special guest, and I have to confirm the date with her, but there is a young lady, a young student who is just a wonderful messenger for what it's like to live with anxiety and depression. And she speaks out against the stigma of mental illness. And she's also a wonderful poet. So either next week or the week after, I'm hoping that she will be our guest on our future Facebook Live show. So if you have any other comments, let them show up here, because I would love to say hi, recognize your comments. Thank you for participating and being an advocate for your children, and I would love to connect with you more. So just add comments or questions, and I will be back to respond to them. So until next Thursday at noon Mountain Time, I'm Charmaine Tanner, and we got to keep on keeping on. And I'm here to do that with you. So together, we'll support each other, and we'll make wonderful, good, positive things happen for your child. Okay? Take care. Bye-bye.